This is a pretty nasty thicket of buckthorn. There was honeysuckle and some other things mixed in here as well. There's some herbaceous invasive plants. Lily Valley, a big patch of that. But this is a kind of an isolated spot along a walkway in a field. And it was really bad. It's one of those, in this park unit, this is one of the last ones that we addressed. Just because of the nature of it. It was so dense. This whole thing that you see here, these piles, this was a whole wall of buckthorn. You can see a few other piles, small ones. The back end wasn't really that hard to deal with. It was, but everything was facing south. It was anywhere from 8 to 10 feet in diameter or width, and it went around the whole area this way. And probably as far as plants go, there was numerous per square foot. In some cases, as you can see here, what I'm talking about is all those are buckthorn. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 15 just in this 3x3 area. And that's what we encountered throughout the whole stretch here. So it's taken us a little while to address it. We went through, cut out some bigger ones, and we did have to stack here a lot of times. Whenever we can, we just chop and drop and let nature take its course. 2 or 3 years later you won't see it. However, when you have this level of invasion, is you have to pick it up and stack it, otherwise you can't move in it in the future. And you know, there has to be some follow-up on these areas. So if you can't even walk in there, you're just going to let the buckthorn be able to establish very easily, versus being able to get them when they're small and not growing for multiple years, because ultimately the suffer could just end, and then we've got you're going to have that cycle regenerate. But right now we're focused on dealing with it. So yeah, some other big piles. Yeah, one thing we do in these thickets like this, we've got a couple of them that one particular one in this general park unit that was substantial, and we cut out the big ones, and then we just started cutting down a lot of them. A lot of times we would cut out those ultimately if we were dealing with it. But the one positive about this is, like, first of all, you're not getting it back. There's going to be sun going to the floor of the forest area and natural area. And if you can't get to it in the next month or 2 or so, you can actually access in here and deal with these. If that top wasn't there, it would just be a big wall of green, and you'd have to battle through this. Right now, you know, if we get it in the next few months, it's like we're gonna have real good access to it. So, and also too, it just creates less debris. So I said, secondary effort. This buys you a year if you need to, but you know, you really need to cut these down repeatedly if you're going to let them flush out. The next, you know, if you're not going to be able to cut them all to the ground and kill them, and then you should just keep cutting the green off throughout the summertime, and just keep weakening them. Some will die just that way, but you can't walk away from this. This has to be addressed pretty quickly before it becomes a problem. If you're not going to address it, the second step, do not do this. It's going to be really, really bad for this whole area. Maybe cut out the cedars. I mean, that's the one thing. If you only have limited time, just cut out the seeds. Again, more big patches of it. The chipmunks really love this. They move into these piles. There's another area of work that we had to make piles, and birds were utilizing them too. So it's kind of cool to see that. Yeah, so this was a done. So you couldn't walk, you know, right where I'm at, you couldn't see in there, but right now it's all thinned out, and there's the carcasses. So yeah, this is a good 15 feet. It looks like that there was an invasion. Even this stuff, you know, it's cut, dealt with on the bottom. Just let them stand. Ultimately, they'll fall. Birds will use them too. Yeah, throughout this whole area, all this was cut out. Yeah, so right now, yeah, this is another area that was really, we just dealt with a couple days ago, and it was really dense. It looks like almost 20 feet width, this whole thing. Some real big ones in here, some small ones, and we cut all the big ones first. People get in there, we just kept thinning them out. Again, secondary approach, we can access these later, we can isolate them, and we've got some time to do that. Any kind of light that would be reaching the ground is now able to, versus if you let those flush out, they would shade it out. So yeah, that's what we had. What you can see here is like right there per square foot, 5, 6 plants, small ones. These, what happened here was that there was large buckthorn that were removed in here, and some were cedars. And yeah, they removed it, but then there was the seed bank, and maybe even, you know, existing buckthorn that was growing underneath those big ones, and they didn't come back. And now you had a thicket. This is actually more, they had addressed that at the time when you cut down the big ones and basically everything's manageable at that level, a lot less work. You have to go to that second step. This is a problem that we're finding, is like people did the big stuff and then they didn't come back for 10 years, and we've got more. The big stuff is actually easy to deal with. I mean, particularly if it's a wasteland. If it's a wasteland, just cut down a few of them, you cover a bunch of areas. I mean, in some cases, what we're dealing with right here, this 20 by probably 20 area is, and you cut down 5 trees and they're done. It's cleaned up, and a lot of debris, but it's over with. So right here, right now, but coming back 5 years later with the seed bank and anything else that was there growing, is now we're spending a lot of time to work. And so that's the thing is if you can create like an effort that is long reaching, that's a hard part. It's very, very difficult to do that through communications with community members, municipalities, nonprofits, all in, you know, conjunction that they're serious about dealing with this stuff, and they're going to have a plan and they're going to put in place that, you know, like every year we're going to come here. Now there's nothing of that going on except isolated areas, and usually they just focus a few times a year or in a certain way. They don't go year round. These efforts really need to be comprehensive year-round efforts, because every month there's something different that you have a window of opportunity to take care of. If you miss it, then you get another year. It's like, it's going to be very hard to get it, in some cases impossible to get it after that window of opportunity. So yeah, you can see here this was really cleaned up. This is one guy that does some stuff with us. He's a real fine tuner. Once we get cleaned up, he cleans it up pretty damn well, completely. And as you can see, that's what a lot of this will look like. If we didn't have the brush piles, this is what we turn it into. So that's a good weekend's work.